This expert advisor turned 10,000 euros into 30,000 euros and then lost 30%. And that's actually the best thing that could have happened to it. If you don't understand this chart, you'll never be able to make money with bots. Welcome everyone, I'm Andrea, your automated trader, and if you like what I do, don't forget to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date and see the new videos I'll be posting. Let's go ahead and run the test of this expert advisor from 2023 to 2026, so up to today, and let's see what it has done. These are the settings we used, some of which I set myself just for this test. If you want to see them, here they are. Looking at this chart, we can see that this is the chart of a raw system, without filters, without anything. There's only the basic idea. What is the basic idea behind this expert? Basically, it calculates the Donchian channel, so the highest and lowest of the last n candles. If the high is broken, it enters a buy. If the low is broken, it enters a sell. The only particularity, which we can also see here from the data, we don't always trade, but we start trading at 7:30 in the morning, server time, so GMT +2 until midnight. When it closes, there's the rollover, let's say. The spreads widen, so it's better to close the position. All positions are then closed before midnight, and we calculate the high and low on the time frame. 5 minutes with 110 reference candles. So, the high and low of the last 110 candles. We have a stop loss of 0.5% and a risk-reward ratio of 3.4%. That's it, there's nothing else, so it's a very simple system. So, looking at the chart, we can see that we had an initial phase that was very flat and slightly negative. There was a part of the equity curve that was doing great. It was soaring, always going up without major drawdowns. And then in the last period, everything went badly. It lost heavily and repeatedly. These behaviors are things that happen to almost all systems in the world, especially when you're analyzing a raw idea. When you go from 10,000 to 30,000, or even more, you feel like a genius, right? Then when you go from 30,000 to 20,000, you start to feel like an idiot again. And it's in these moments that most traders shut everything down, change their settings, and in the end, they stay poor, right? The problem isn't this system. The problem is that people always want systems that never go through tough times. But a system that always makes money and never goes through tough times doesn't exist, so it's unattainable. A bot that never goes into drawdown is a scam. A bot that can withstand drawdown and keep going is a money-making machine and will print money for a long time. Now, try to remember roughly how this curve behaves because we ran this test in OHLC1. If the system has been programmed well enough, even when running it in Real Tick, we should get results similar to the ones we just saw. Let's take a look at this as well. Let's start the test. There, the test is finished. As you can see, the values are very similar to those we had before. So even when using a more accurate model, the results don't change. This is good because it means we're not modeling price noise, but we're actually modeling something that is a characteristic of how gold moves. Now let's take a look at our code. So you'll also have the expert's code and you can test it, try it out, and modify it. I'm just telling you, this is the basic idea. It's raw. Work on it with some filters, add some ideas, something to filter the trades a bit. That way you might find a setup that performs better. And even during periods where, for example, here it's sideways or not performing well, by filtering the trades properly, you might be able to keep only the positive ones. Here we are with the code. So at the top, I've written some information. If it breaks the high or low of the last n candles, I enter and hold it until the end of the day or until the target is reached. I make only one trade per day. You can also try making more than one trade per day. I originally thought of it as making just one trade per day. So we have the usual properties that are always present in the code, these lines for executing trades and managing positions. Then we have the variable bars total, which is the total number of bars, because we will be working only when a new bar forms. Then there's the first group of inputs, which is for money management. As usual, because this is repetitive and always the same in all my experts, since I always use the same function. I have a specific lot size, which is 0.01 if I choose to use a fixed lot size for my trades, or alternatively the percentage risk if I genuinely want to make trades with a calculated percentage risk of the entire account. Then I also have the designated trading hours, as I previously mentioned before. Earlier, so the stop time when I stop trading, the time when I start, whether to close positions at the end of the day, so this variable can be true or false, and then I have the position closing time here, which is the time at which I close the positions. I also need to add this variable allowed time to tell it that the time is suitable for trading, let's say. Then I have another group with the expert advisor settings. So I have the time frame I'm going to work on, the number of candles I'm going to consider, the percentage stop, so as a percentage of the price, and the risk reward ratio. In the last block, we have the magic number as always, and the comment that I add to the trade. And then I still have this variable, which is an int that allows me to make one trade per day. Now let's take a look at what's inside the onInit function. In onInit, I save the number of bars that are on the chart when I launch the expert, which I will need. Then afterwards, I go and set my magic number as usual with this line. There's nothing in the init. Let's move on to onTick. The first thing I have is the check for the trading hours. So basically here I use the string to time function to create the time. I check that I have to be after the start time and before the stop time. So it's very simple. If this is true, this variable allowed time is true. So I can trade. If not, it's false. That means I'm outside my time window where I should be working. This block is a block that allows you to close all positions at the position closing time at the end of the day. So we need to get the total number of positions on MetaTrader and the ticket of each position. Then we go and do an if statement, meaning that if we decide to close the positions at the end of the day, because we could also leave them open and wait to reach the target or the stop. So if we decide that the position Q is true, close, pause is equal to true, what do? We use an if statement because our current time must be greater than the close time. When this is true or equal, it means we are after the position closing time, if this happens. I'm running a loop here. I've actually made two for convenience because sometimes it executes faster this way. Inside this for loop, I get the ticket of the position, so I save the ticket using position get ticket. And then I perform a check. I need to verify that the position was opened by my expert. So to do this, I check that the magic number of the position matches the magic number of my expert. If that's true, I simply close the position. Then we have this block, which is a block that constantly checks if there are any positions opened by our expert. So we initialize this pose open. This variable, which is set to 0 because there are 0 open positions, and we loop through all the positions. As long as we find one with our magic number, if this happens, it means there is an open position, and so pose open becomes 1. In these lines. Here instead, I reset the allow day counter to 0. We'll see this more clearly in a moment. After every time I make a trade, my allow day becomes 1 because it means I've opened a position, so for that day it stays at 1. I've made my trade and can't make any more for that day. Obviously, at the end of the day, I need to reset it so that the next day it starts from 0. And I move on, and I make the position I want to make. Here, the expert works on a new bar. For simplicity, I made it work on the M1 bar. In this case, everything is done on M5, so you could also run it on M5. But it's more accurate to use it on M1. So this is what allows you in this case to have an expert with little difference when you run the test in OHLC or Real Tick. And this is an important thing in backtesting because it speeds up your backtest analysis a lot. And if you use, for example, the MetaTrader cloud, you spend much less than doing it in Real Tick. And in the end, you'll see that you get practically identical results. So we have our bars, which is the number of bars on the chart, and I save it in bars. And these are the ones I read when the expert's code reaches this line of code here, where it says int bars. Then what do I check? If the total number of bars is different from the bars present now, it means there's a new bar. So I go in and redo all the expert's calculations. And of course, I update the total bars to the number of bars there are now. Here we have a block that basically calculates our Donchian channel here. When I made this expert in MetaTrader, the Donchian channel wasn't there. At least if I remember correctly, it was added in one of the latest updates. Anyway, the Donchian channel is basically a channel formed on the highs of the last N candles. So if I calculate the high, or conversely the low, I can recreate the values of my Donchian channel. So here I meticulously go to precisely find the absolute high point of the very last candles. Then, I also carefully save the exact index, which fundamentally represents the precise position of this significant high value. After that, here I find the high and the low, the maximum and minimum, which are the ones I'll need to use in my program. I normalize them to make sure they have the correct number of digits, and that's it. I have my values. They are calculated every time there is a new bar, so if these highs and lows change, they are recalculated and updated. Then I save the ask and bid, which I need to make the trade. As usual, sometimes during programming, I use comments to see the values I'm interested in. Then in the end, I disable them if they're not needed so that the expert runs faster. Let's move on. Here we have the block where the buy is executed up to this point. What do we have in this block? So if the price, meaning the ask, is higher than our high, it means we're breaking through the high. We're just above this high. The time is allowed, so we're within the time window we're interested in. We don't have any positions because post open is 0 and a low day is 0 since we haven't opened any positions yet today. We go inside, we calculate the stop loss as the high minus the high times our percentage stop loss because we're doing a buy. We calculate the target in the same way using risk and reward. These are mathematical formulas, so there's not much to explain. We always normalize just to be safe, both the target and the stop loss. Then we need to calculate our lot size. As usual, there's always the same function I always use, and I've even made a dedicated video about it. So here we calculate our lot size. If there's no percentage risk, the lot size remains fixed. Otherwise, we go and pass it to calculus. Our distance on which we need to calculate the risk, the function, always here at the bottom, as you can see, is this one, the one I use in all the programs. So I won't go into too much detail. From here, you'll get the lot sizes you need to use. Once we have the lot sizes, we go and make our trade with this line. We execute a market buy where we specify the lot size, the symbol taken from the chart, at the ask price. We set the stop loss, take profit, and our comment, and we set the variable a low day to 1 because we've made a trade, so we can't make any more trades. Here we have it. Then it's the same thing. For the sell, it's basically just the opposite. So you do exactly the same things, just obviously for the sell. So everything is the opposite. And then in this line is where we execute our sell. Here too, if you want, try removing allow day, so you can open more positions per day. It's up to you how to set it up. Change the parameters. This is a rough idea that seemed good because at least it doesn't collapse and it seems profitable. From here, you can start developing it however you like. The so-called fafagurus usually only show you systems when they're making money, but I also show you systems when they're not working well, because it's precisely from here that you can turn a rough system like this into a machine that works well. If you want this expert so you can study it, modify it, and run some tests, let me know in the comments and write "I want it." If we reach 80 comments where you ask for it, I'll make the code available for you to download directly. Let's see how many people are really ready to trade seriously. Also, let me know in the comments if you have any ideas on how to filter the trades or improve this expert. And in general, if you have any filters or insights that you might have and want me to implement in the code, let me know. And remember one thing, a system that never goes into crisis doesn't exist, but a trader who knows what to do when a system goes into crisis does exist. See you in the next video.